MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Raman Annamaraju. No, I'm not Albert Einstein, but I'm pretty good. We have a very important guest today, and I have a co-host. Her name is Sheila Daulahashi. We have an Indian princess. Her name is Draupadi. Is very close. So she's going to be interviewing actually in my place, and I'm going to do a presentation of the topic. This is physicians are all over the world complaining about the burnout, and they're tired of it, their reimbursements. It's just a long list of problems. We got to listen to that. Otherwise, our healthcare system is going to go and fail, crumble. Okay? It will crumble. So we need to really pay attention to them. So I'm going to introduce you my co-host, Sheila. I'm going to introduce you my co-host, Sheila Daulahashi. She is a better looking and a better accent. So let me bring her to the table. She is going to talk about, let me introduce our guest. Sheila, welcome.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for having me co-host with you. It's a pleasure to be here and to be on MedBix with you, Romana. I'm very excited to interview our guest today, Sapna Shah-Haque, hails from Kansas, I believe. Sapna, are you there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fabulous. Good evening. I a pleasure of learning a little bit about you earlier on. I'd love for you to give me the background that you gave us, and where you grew up. That was, I thought, very interesting. I'd love to hear it again.
Sure. So I'm a native Kansan. Background is Asian Indian and Mexican American. So I'm a Wichita native, and I travel a lot, but I've been here all my life.
And so you're still located in Kansas?
Yes, correct.
And you were talking about Kansas City. Is that where you live?
I do not live in Kansas City. I live in rural Kansas in the southeast corner. I did live in Kansas City for 3 years. That's where I went to medical school for the first 2 years and the last 2 years in Wichita. It's my hometown, and it's also where I did my residency. But Kansas City is great. It's a Midwestern city through and through, and it's a fun place to be.
It's, Kansas City is a fantastic place. I first was introduced to it working for a Ewing Kauffman company. I don't know if you're familiar with the name Ewing Kauffman, but at one time he owned the Kansas City Royals. He was a self-made man, millionaire, who started making crushed calcium in his garage and started a pharma company. Went on to have, we launched diltiazem, cardizem, calcium channel blocker, but this guy was amazing. And he would give scholarships to inner city students that went to high school there and finished high school with, I think, grades of better than B, and would pay for their full college if they chose to go to college. So it was an incredible community man. We'll have to do something on community impact, Romana, at some point, but he was just fabulous. So I'm familiar with what physicians go through. So it's very appropriate on Physicians Day, Doctors Day, to thank you for everything that you have done. And I would love to hear a little bit about your practice, what sorts of problems you faced during your practice, if any, what practice was like when you started, and how did it evolve?
Sure, that's an excellent question. So when I initially came out of residency, again, I did my residency in Wichita, Kansas, KU internal medicine, great training. I had known that I wanted to go into a rural area, underserved area that aligns with my values. One of the things that I was really excited about was to be a comprehensivist or to do both inpatient and outpatient. And it was great starting a practice. But to be honest with you, my mom had a big stroke back in 2016, which really change my priorities. And with that, I needed to have more time with my family. And that was difficult being, in hospital or in clinic. Quite frankly, more than just the 9 to 5, it was all odd hours. And even getting paid, when I was not on call or even on vacation, when I was trying to spend time with my family and really figure out how to restructure that, I had to take a step back. So at that point in time, I went from doing inpatient, outpatient. I took another position and did inpatient only, and that was very nice. It was, no call, no weekends. But what I had to do after that, and the reason why I do a lot of what I do, just my approach to life and everything, is my best friend from medical school and residency died by suicide in
Mm,
2019 in her office.
wow. Wow.
And one of the reasons why she left a note, and one of the reasons why she did not seek help that she needed, was because she was worried about professional repercussion. So at that point in time, I really had to think about, what am I doing? Where is this the way I want my life to look like? And after that, I decided to, with two young kids, I decided to take a step back even further and go part time. So I came back to the original small town, rural town that I started in 2013, and it's great. I'm able to have, when I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. I'm there 100%. But then on my time off, it's protected, and I'm able to goof off with my family and explore other things that I like to do outside of medicine.
At first, I am so sorry to hear about your friend, and it's really terrifying that this is happening more and more often. And we hear about suicide, particularly um, after the pandemic. I would imagine that this problem has really even become more significant, and maybe a pandemic of its own. What do you believe were some of the reasons or the factors that led your close friend to her demise in such a horrible way? And was there something she left in the note that gave you some idea of what she was thinking about?
No, no. I mean, being a physician, it's we're called to give everything of ourselves to the patient first and always. And while when we take that oath, the Hippocratic oath, yes, we there's a medicine is a calling, but it's also a job, right? In a sense that we have to take care of ourselves. I don't think she took care of herself. But again, that we're not taught that. We're not taught boundaries. We're not taught that it is okay to say no. It is okay to not be able to solve everything. We do know that insurance does not reimburse. And if you're in solo practice, sometimes depending on the specialty, it is difficult for the reimbursement. We're not taught business skills in medical school. But outside of what I can guess, and again, guessing, we don't know because she never said anything. And that's the hard part, and this happened in her office. Somebody to take their own life in the hospital or office, that has to really send a message and tell you something, and it's not a good message.
It's very, yes, it's disheartening to know that she couldn't go to anyone or get help from anyone. I think that really demonstrates how physicians sometimes suffer in solo, and they don't seek help. They only think about providing help to others. Uh, So having grown up with a father who was a physician, I watched him in the hospital. He took me to round with him even. And then, years later, things became very complicated, and he was only sticking to practice in his own office as hospitalists emerged into medicine. What do you think are the biggest burnout factors? And were they there when you started, or do they evolve over time?
Sure. I think, nobody goes into medicine to treat the computers, and we spend more time with the computers than we do with our patients, right? So I do think that EHR, EMR is a big factor. For every X amount of patients, you spend 1 to 2 hours charting. So that extends the work time. Also, the reimbursement, it has gone down when everything else is going up. So with an economy currently right now with inflation, what astronomical, they're now cutting down the reimbursement rate. So you have to turn out more and more patients, which decreases the quality of care. We did not go into medicine no physician went into medicine to try to herd patients in and out like cattle, for lack of better terms. We really cannot address the issue. We cannot spend the time we'd like to with our patients. And and then you have everybody else that is not in the room trying to tell you how to practice medicine, whether it is a governing body in Washington, D.C., or at the state level, or at the C-suite. Now, my institution is different. It's it's a small town, so we have a very family-oriented, patient-oriented way of practicing. But it's difficult when overhead keeps getting more expensive, you cannot deliver the quality of care. Not to mention that everything is denied by insurance when as a physician, what the patient needs. The patient knows what they need, but you can't get them the care that they need because of insurance. They dictate what can and cannot be done.
So, if you were to kind of summarize what the biggest factors are, you are talking about insurance being a real big problem, a big hurdle, basically making your job a lot more complicated. The demands of the EHR, which were supposed to make things easier, but they have become sort of a barrier between you and the patient. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And
also, yeah. And is it that the administrators in the hospital are now making demands as well about when, patients should be discharged, and the case managers are now on your case? Um, are those some of the factors that contribute where physicians feel they've lost power? Is that what I'm understanding from you?
that is, so I don't do inpatient anymore.
Right.
But from what I hear, yes, because everybody that is not necessarily liable for the patient is telling you how to treat that patient. But if there were to be a bad outcome, it would not be the case manager in the deposition. It's going to be the physician. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of liability on the physician, but yet they have no control over it. And it does nothing, it does not help the patient. In fact, it hinders.
Right. What do you think about Silicon Valley and AI getting more and more involved in healthcare? What do you think that will do? Are you threatened by it? Are physicians threatened by it?
I personally am not threatened by it. I think it should be embraced in a logical and ethical way. I myself would love to see a way to have a scribe on you that never quits, right? So that
Hmm.
would help. And there are some programs that we're going to we plan on piloting one in our office later on next month, hopefully. So I do think if it is implemented correctly and with an ethical approach in order to aid physicians and augment our efficiency, but not bog us down for just another box to check, and actually helps the patient experience and better outcomes, then yes, it should be adopted and streamlined.
who do you think is benefiting from all of the changes that have taken place? Is anyone?
It is definitely not the patient or the physicians. I do think that a lot of it is, and I think a lot of it are those companies, the insurance companies. I think it's the venture capitalists that are, they don't belong in medicine. Medicine is between the patient and the physician. That is the relationship. That is, we take the code, the Hippocratic Oath,
Hmm.
and I would like to see more ethical insurance companies, but I'm not, I'm having a hard time finding that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Ramona had a guest on a few weeks ago, and this physician said spending time with a patient is what ignites inside a physician. It gives them the energy to go on. The more time they spend with the patient, the more rewarded they feel. Do you think that the lack of time spent with the patient, or as you said, feeling like your patients have become like cattle, is what has added to the dissatisfaction? Or what would you say has really made physicians dissatisfied, which you hear about every day?
Sure, I think it's the fact that, again, we went into medicine to treat patients. And when we cannot spend the time that we need to actually get down to the root of the problem, and we have to push a medication, or, okay, well, that's all the time I have, yeah, it's very dismissing, not only to the patient, but also to what we can potentially do. And that's not fulfilling. Number one. Number two, we are told what we can and cannot do by, again, prior authorizations for when we know this is what the patient needs, but the insurance company doesn't want to pay for it, even though it would help in the long run. For example, there are multiple medications that would help uh, in the long run, all cause mortality in diabetics, but insurance won't pay for it because of X, Y, and Z. But we know that in, let's say, 1 or 2 years, that'd be a lot cheaper than a hospital stay. So that's very difficult. It's difficult to grasp that because at a moral level, this is what we train to do, but yet we cannot do that. And so that's where you have burnout. That's where you have moral injury. And asking to always see two, three patients, so double, triple book just because you have to, or because we need more revenue to cover overhead. But then again, that goes back to decreased time with the patients, and we cannot do what we were trained to do. And all of a sudden, we are on different committees or have tasks that really are not at the top of our scope of practice. And that's demoralizing.
So you decided to go part time. Tell me how you feel now personally, and what would need to change for you to ever perhaps consider going back to full time practice.
Sure. So at this point in time, I don't see myself going back to full time practice anytime soon. I have several reasons to stay part time, and that is because we operate in an inefficient system, and we have to find workarounds. I work in a great place where we have a tribe. We have a tribe vibe going on. That we cover each other. We stick up for each other. We fill the gaps. But we should not have to find different workarounds for a broken system. So that's draining. That's draining for anybody. The system would have to change completely for me to even consider the thought of going back full time. I could not be paid enough to go back full time because I feel fulfilled when I can be a physician part time, and I can be myself, whether that's goofing off or playing with my kids or going on excursions outside. I like to do other things outside of medicine. So working part time allows me to explore those other areas of life that make me feel like a fulfilled, complete human.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for the transparency. Today is especially important to me because my father passed away. As a tribute to him, I released a book just recently called Pack Your Own Healthcare Parachute, A Physician's Death Through His Daughter's Eyes. I feel that the pain we incurred as a family was partly because of everything that we had to do to fight the system every step of the way. And my father was such an amazing physician, and I'm sure I liken it to probably the way that you used to practice, in that, for example, a patient's MRI was not authorized. The patient had a headache. They wanted him to send the patient to an eye doctor to have his eyes checked. My father knew this patient and was suspicious of a brain tumor. So you talk about workarounds. My father wouldn't accept a no. So he sent the patient to the ER and
Yeah.
said he needs an MRI. That's a workaround, right? He
Yeah.
ended up having a tumor. And because my father was such a huge advocate, he ended up having the surgery and surviving brain cancer.
Oh.
But this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for doctors like you and my father, who fight to a point where it actually starts to get to you, because you really care and you went into medicine to help patients. So my gratitude to you, and my gratitude to my father and all of the doctors out there. I really couldn't say more about the respect that I have for really all providers. I think nurses are caught up in the same situation, um, sadly, and physician assistants, nurse practitioners are caught up in the same issues. So we are going to take a little break. And when I come back, I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing now and the podcasts. But first, we're going to go back to Ramana and his presentation on a burnout of a different kind and a different time. Back to you, Ramana.
Thank you, Sheila. Dr. Sapna, that's really compelling nowadays. That I saw the Medscape report. It says, "I cry, no one cares. I cry alone, no one cares." There's a Medscape report. 90% of the doctors are feeling that pressure of burnout. Is just amazing. This is a national crisis. We need to address at the national level. But anyway, there was another person, another time. She went through a crisis, burnout. I'm going to talk about her today. So, Dr. Sapna Shah, thank you, and come back and talk with you a little bit more. But Sheila will talk with you more. But actually, there was another time. Um, if you don't mind, people, can you put a mute on your phones, Sheila and Sapna? Then it is when I get back, and then because it creates a little bit of noises there. So Russia and Ukraine war is right now. There is a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, as all we know. But there was another time. Russia and Ukraine war actually due to the particular region called Crimea. Is the Crimean, the peninsula around the Black Sea, that is going on right now. That 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 is a major war going on between them. So let me bring all of you back. We can listen together. That's Dr. Sapna can listen too. So in this war, I want to talk about Russia. There's a Crimean War, Ottoman Empire with the Turkey. Is actually now the Crimea is a mostly Ukrainian population in 1853. This is a long before there is another time there was a war between Russia and Ukraine. But there is no country Ukraine at the time. It is the ethnic population of Ukraine is ruled by Turkey, Ottoman Empire. So at that time, Russia encroached the Ukraine, ethnic population of Ukrainian area, which is occupied by, which is actually
ruled by Ottoman Empire. So Ottoman Empire was weak at the time. They went to England and asked for the help to get support to fend off the Russian army's invasion in 1853. That is the first modern war. This is the Black Sea, right there, Ottoman Empire. The Black Sea is the center of all the attention during the time. The England is worried about Russia because Russia, they think, eventually comes to Turkey and then eventually go to India. Their prized position. India was being ruled by being ruled by Britain, England at the time, British. So they're worried Russia will eventually occupy England, India. That is one of the worries. That's why they send their troops to Turkey, which is Ottoman Empire, to fend off the Russians. But during this war, it is a Crimean war. It's a modern war. They use explosive naval shells. They use very powerful naval shells. They are really. This is the first human civilization. The first modern war. They just started here in Crimea, and then they have a transportation. The railways or the transportation and the telegraph for communications. They were invented during this war. So they were using all those modern technology at the time available. But Crimean War is a logistical, tactical, and medical failure. Important is a medical failure. It's an 11-month war. It is a medical failure. I tell you why. It was a huge medical failure. Is a 500,000 people dead. Think about 1856, 500 people, both sides, Russia and England side, more than 500,000 people, 500,000 people dead. But not from the actual war. They're from the diseases they've died. British soldiers dying in large numbers. So this was a big problem for England, actually. It is a medical catastrophe in Crimean War. That's the first time humans realized that medicine is important in the war side, in the war during the war. So what they did was, that is where our woman comes in like a beautiful. There's the other two. There's another beautiful woman here. Her name is Florence Nightingale. She was born in 1820, a privileged intellect. She's from an aristocratic family. She was born in Florence, Italy. That's why she got the name. She's a British citizen. Her father is a British diplomat. He was housed in Florence, Italy, and then she was born in Florence, Italy. That's why she was named up at the 1810. She was named as a Florence. So that is a connection between her and Florence, Italy. Her name. So she loved mathematics. She is one of the people don't know anything about Florence Nightingale. I'm going to give you new insights into what is her character and what she did. So she was Isaac Newton just died 75 years before her, and Gottfried Leibniz is another mathematician from Germany. They're all the two powerful mathematicians during that time. Just before that, she died. They died like 100 years before that. But there are two statisticians. One is William Petty from England. Both of them are England. Carl Pearson. Both of them are English economists and the statisticians. She loved statistics. So Florence Nightingale learned from her father and from all these books. She's learning from all these people, William Petty and Carl Pearson. She's an aristocratic family. She has an access to a lot of books and a lot of things. The girls didn't go to school in mathematics. They didn't send them. So she learned herself mathematics. She loved mathematics, and she learned from the top people. From her father, William Nightingale, taught her a lot of mathematics and statistics. But eventually, she loved nursing. She went to Germany, Kaiser Lutheran Hospital. She went to nursing school. She finished the nursing school in the Germany nursing school. There, after that, she heard about the midst of the Crimean War. A lot of casualties. People are dying in Crimea. So she wanted to take 50 women from 21st October 1854. She took 50 women nurses to Crimea, Istanbul, Turkey. She took them across the Black Sea to treat the British soldiers on the battlefront. So what are the usual suspects here? The Crimean War, medical catastrophe is on making, typhoid is the bacterial infections, and cholera and malaria as a parasitic. These are all people are dying because of 25% of deaths due to these diseases, not from the injuries from the war. So she was witness to this horrible, this catastrophe, this horrible deaths due to the diseases, not from the injuries from the war. She was shocked actually. So she invented a chart. It's called a rose chart. Can you believe that? She was the most. She did not invent the pie chart, but she popularized. At the time, nobody knows about pie chart. She took the pie chart and she made her own chart. It's called a rose chart. It's a very well-known chart, in fact. She's the first data analyst. She took what she did was she created a pie chart first. In the pie chart, if you see it, there is a pink color there. There is a blue color there. Blue color pie. See, it look like a pizza. But in fact, it is a very month by month she did. What she demonstrated is that through the graphics that the pink one are dying because of the injuries. The most of the people are dying due to the diseases. That blue is all from the diseases. That's what she saw. That was a huge hit during that time. So she did the rose shot. She invented the rose shot, and she took this rose shot back to England, and she presented to rose shot was presenting for funding. She wanted to build a hospital for the military hospital in Turkey. So she went to Westminster Congress, like a US Congress hall. She went there and she was walking around with the rose shot across the Westminster Hall. So the politicians were scared of her. She threatened them. In fact, then I'm going to go to the public and tell them, you're not taking care of our soldiers. You're letting them die due to the diseases. And so they were scared of her. And eventually she got the funding to build a hospital in Turkey. A road shot played a wonders really in the road shot actually played a critical role in the W.B. Du Bois is a civil rights leader, prolific author from Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from. So I lived most of my life in Atlanta. The W.B. Du Bois is an author, is a civil rights leader. He took the inspiration from the Florence Nightingale and created a road chart, and then another chart, that colorful chart. He created it to demonstrate the employment between the whites and blacks during the 1800s and 1900s. It was exhibited in the Paris exhibition. It was a huge hit. In fact, it was a very biggest attraction in Paris is chart actually. It was inspired by Florence Nightingale. That Du Bois told the plight of the blacks in the discrimination in Atlanta area, in Georgia in general. So that chart was a really graphical pictures, gave a really powerful messages. So she went back to Istanbul with the funding, and she's a powerful lobbyist. She knows how to lobby. She's a really know how to get the money. So she built the hospital, first Scutari Hospital, Istanbul, Turkey. So that was a huge hospital. It is a with the open windows and with the large windows, and then she created sunlight in the large windows. She created in Turkey. So she's a love of science. She really believed in science. What she did was carbon dioxide she believed in sunlight, and then the oxygen, the open air ventilation. The ventilation is, she measured the carbon dioxide through lime water. She sends a pump just in the lime water and see the milk come out, that she can measure the carbon dioxide in the air. So she used the first time science to determine the flow of the air. Even the United States schools in the beginning of 1900, they used their techniques, in fact. So that was that way she used a lot of science, a lot of architecture. She was a really 5,000 square foot, a cubic foot air should be pumped every hour. That's what she decided, and then she implemented that in the Scutari Hospital. She was Scientific American ran an article during the COVID-19. She said that she is the true architect of the hospitals. She really designed the hospital such a way that we all know oxygen therapies and all those things. So she thought that open windows and then the sunlight can heal a lot of wounds and injuries. That's what she thought, and it is true. And these dramatic Scientific American ran the articles and during COVID-19 paid a tribute to Florence Nightingale. So actually, she reduces the drastic reduction in the deaths, 65% to 2% mortality rate went down because of Florence Nightingale. Single woman did that. So she also very inventive. She's a really genius woman. She did a first fabricated hospital. She was instrumental in creating a Renkwai hospital, fabricated hospital, military field hospital. She was instrumental in creating that hospital there. So it has all the blood pressure equipment and some of the things that during those times available. She put in those small rooms. That is an amazing for during the time. Her notes, she's a prolific writer. She wrote notes on hospitals, notes on nursing. So her notes are like a Bible almost in every hospital in the beginning days of United States. During the Civil War, they used both sides usually her notes on hospitals and the notes on hospital, notes on nursing. In fact, Chimborazo Hospital in Virginia is the epicenter of this war, and where they used her notes, in fact. So then she's a public health epidemiologist, as a prolific public health researcher. What she did was she understood the power of the interoperability healthcare standards. What she did was she created a uniform hospital printed forms, and she came back to England. She was not feeling well. She came back to London, and then she created a uniform printed forms interoperability. She created a long time before we thought about it. Uniform hospital printed forms, and she implemented it in across the hospitals in London, and said that. So she collected a meticulous collection of data she did during the time. She was a statistical. She is a love of mathematics, love of statistics. Really realized it in that sense. So she was asking questions. You can see that number of patients joined it, when they were admitted in, when they were admitted out, when they were checked out, and what kind of causes are. She collected the data from these uniform printed forms. In fact, uniform hospital printed forms. She used to call UHPF. That's what she gave the name. In fact, she is the first instrumental in creating interoperability in this one. So she was instrumental in finding Royal Statistical Society in England. She was a member and a founder of the Royal Statistical Society, and then she's also honorary member. In fact, the chairman of the president of the American Statistical Society went to England because she was not feeling well during the time. So she gave her honorary degree and honorary membership in the American Statistical Society. She was the first statistician, public health researcher. People don't know. So she trivialized all this information about her. She wrote India Sanitation. She wrote a 2,000 pages India Sanitation in 1890. She was during the Sepoy Mutiny. A lot of British commanders were killed, and she said that British were outraged. Oh, British commanders were killed, but she said that actually more commanders were killed by diseases, not by the mutiny. Is a very small thing, and then she really got into trouble in England. But she wrote the 2,000 page, and she is instrumental in starting the Indian Sanitation Department in India Sanitation Council. She started in Mumbai, in fact. So she's a founder of medical tourism. In fact, she's a mother of tourism. Switzerland, the expenses of the cost of the healthcare were going higher, and she said that she's sending all the patients to Turkey to reduce the cost to see the medical tourism. She was it is not a modern thing. She did a long time ago, sending the patients to other countries. So she goes through bouts of depression because she is such an intelligent woman. She is a multifaceted woman. She was a bipolar disorder. She went through a lot of bouts of depression. She is already. That was a post diagnosis by Catherine Wisner from Chicago. She was saying that she wrote a book on her depression, and she mentioned about the Florence Nightingale depression. So she said that she's a statistician. So people say she's a lady with a lamp. She's just trivializing her really contributions. She's a statistician. She's a nurse. She's an architect and social reformer. Is a woman of intellect. She said that, and compassion, woman of compassion. What she pioneer, innovator, and she said that and a woman of compassion. She said, I stand at the altar of the murdered men, and while I live, I fight their cause. That's what she said. So during the war, that's what she is a remarkable woman. And then that's why I created Head Shots. And that is, let me bring back both of all of them together now. So what do you think? This Florence Nightingale is in a new light, Sapna.
I didn't know those things about her. I'm really appreciative that you did bring that to light, especially, in the time that she was born, like you said, women didn't study math. And so I can really appreciate that. Her forwardness, her forward thinking. So that's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Let Sheila ask you a few questions more, and she wanted to know a little bit more about us, all of us. Go ahead, Sheila, and ask her what is it.
Fascinating. I did not know that about Florence Nightingale either. So, not surprising that when you have to fight through, probably even at that time, the battles and the issues that are standing between you and getting your objectives done. I think the inspiration and the commitment that she had was amazing. The level of innovation, but it still got to her. And obviously, she did not do that without going through her own issues with mental health. So, very, very interesting, fascinating. I am very interested in hearing a little bit more about the Worthy Physician and your podcast and what you've been doing to help some of your peers kind of make it through difficult times.
Sure. So my friend died in 2019 in June, and so that did not know how to grieve that. I
Mm,
that was something that was a learning curve for me. Right? We're not in
can't
medicine. We
imagine.
have a thing that I'm sure as your dad could have attested to. We're supposed to be stoic and not show our feelings. And while I understand that we're supposed to be objective with making medical decisions or giving medical advice, we're humans. And when you're a healer, if you're an empath, you spend your energy, you also absorb that. So what do you do with that?
Mm,
And I started the podcast, The Worthy Physician, in a way to look at burnout because I myself was not really aware of the term up until Dr. Bicker died by suicide. And I had to figure out, I had to go read for myself, why do physicians die by suicide? I mean, we have it made, right? Or so we think. We're thought to believe that, and we do in a sense, but we don't realize what we give up. We don't realize how much work we put in, and then what we thought medicine was going to be like, it's completely different, and there's really nothing to prepare us for that. So one way of grieving was I started the Worthy Physician, and I started that in April of 2021, and that was a way of grieving.
amazing. Amazing. How do you think that other physicians can be better supported before they get to the point that your friend got to?
Well, I would say that, and I really like the Lorna Breen Foundation because of the work that they're doing. And we have to get those questions changed. And it's not just for physicians, it's for the other practitioners that you mentioned, the nurse practitioners, the PAs, the nurses. We have to get those questions changed on licensing. So that
Mm,
way it does not read, hey, do you have anxiety, depression? And then we're worried about professional repercussion.
right.
About in 2019, about 6 months after Peg died, a little bit less, we had the Kansas Board of Healing Arts change those questions into one, and it's more like, does anxiety, depression, or any other mental illness that you have hinder your ability to practice medicine? And so that's worded a completely different way because it is a hindrance. And if you talk to the medical board, they say, we just want to get you help. So I think if the questions were changed and physicians understood and that it was actually backed up and not just words to make you feel soft and come with me with your problems or be honest and then have repercussion, but to honestly be truthfully interested in the person's well-being. I think that would go a long way. Because physicians go across state or they'll do cash pay, so it's not traceable, right? So it's not traceable, so there's no trace. And so that's horrible when we're trying to tell our patients to do X, Y, and Z for their self-care or their mental health, and we cannot do the same.
Sheila, if you don't mind, I ask her a question.
Yes, of course.
So, Sapna, the question is, the stigma is attached not only for the general public. What is the stigma attached to the particularly is a more prevalent? A doctor never say that I'm going to be, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling depressed. You cannot say the particularly is a more attached to the doctors. How do you solve that problem? How do you address that? And what are these possible solutions for this?
Sure. So I circle back to I would like, and on my podcast, one thing that I do talk about one of the beginning episodes, and I still bring it up is for physicians to work with their medical societies and try to get the board or the licensing questions changed or at least addressed because it is okay. Yes, you know what? I've gone through bouts of maybe it's depression, maybe it's grief, such deep grief. How do you mourn these things? And so I think it's okay for me as a physician, as a person. Remember, I'm a person first. I have feelings that I need to let out, and so we need to address that. So I would say we need to normalize the conversation. We need to make it okay to have physicians say how they're feeling. Hey, you know what? I'm tired. Hey, you know what? I'm sad because I lost 3 patients this week, or I'm frustrated because I can't get the patient the care that they need. All those are true, real feelings, and then not have it be uh, stigmatized or demonized for being human. And again, circling back to where the questions, not only at the state level of licensing, but also for the credentialing at the facilities. A lot of those questions are invasive, and there's some thought that it might be even violating violating our rights as physicians. That should not be held against us.
Yeah, that's a very good. Sapna, I want to ask you, what are the national level or state level, organizational level, what they're trying to do? They know the problem. They know the physician burnout and nurses, healthcare professional burnout. Are they doing any at the higher level, organizational level, or state level, or the federal level? Are there any people are doing anything about it, or any lobbying efforts are doing done in this area?
I know that the Lorna Brain Foundation, they're trying to go and get those questions changed. I'm in a state, and part of the reason why I stay here is because I love where I practice. I love the fact that Kansas is a physician-friendly state. I work in a state where one of the 13 states that we do not have the invasive questions about mental health. So for me, that's a big deal. Now I know that again, the Lorna Breen Foundation is trying to do a lot of work with that. I think that the Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy, is really moving in the right direction. However, medicine is slow as an iceberg to change. So we're behind the 8 ball already. We have a pandemic or epidemic here, but a pandemic worldwide, right? Because physician suicide rate is high not only here in the United States, but also across the pond and in Canada. So, why is it that 400 plus physicians a year in the United States take their own life? They die by suicide. That's underreported. And women are 2.5 times more likely to die by suicide than men. And that is complete opposite of the general population. So to me, it's something that needs to be addressed. So I try to be an advocate to say, hey, go work with your medical societies. I'm an internist, so I'd be like ACP. I think the American Medical Association, they have a toolkit, and that's a good step in the right direction. As far as lobbying, I'm not 100% sure. I would love to see more lobbying for that. However, we don't like the deep pockets. The deeper pockets are going to be the entities which we talked about in the first half. They're going to have the deeper pockets. Why does that matter? Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
Follow the money trail. They're the ones that make the rules or influence.
So many people believe that there needs to be an overhaul in medicine in order to give that sense of empowerment back to the doctor. So all of these things are great. Lobbying is great. Do you feel like there needs to be a wholesale change, however?
100%, yes. Yes. Yes, we know that with the amount of physicians, nurses leaving the profession.
It's terrifying because when we need medical care, there's going to be a massive shortage. So that is very worrisome. So in the perfect world, what would being a physician look like if you could imagine it being a better place to practice? What would need to be changed?
For physicians, nurses, and everybody else to be able to do their job without everybody else that is not in that exam room or part of that treatment plan, stay out of it. Stay out of it.
Giving the power back to the physicians then, and whoever the providers, basically.
Correct.
That's what I'm hearing. Yes. Empower the physicians.
Okay. So you have any questions? Thank you sharing your personal story, Dr. Sapna Shah-Haque. It's not easy to share, but it's a wonderful that your personal story. And thank you. It's truly an honor to talk with you. And then and thank you, Sheila. You did a great job, and she has a better accent and better looking. Both of you, so you're the better people for us. Thank you.
I really appreciated it so much, Dr. Sapna Shah. I really, really think that what you're doing with your podcast and just helping others be able to cope better is incredibly important, and self-care is important as well. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for sharing your story. Very compelling.
Thank you. Thank
What
you.
is your website, Dr. Sapna? worthyphysician.com?
Yes, it's the worthyphysician.com. Correct.
Very good. worthyphysician.com. Dr. Sapna Shah-Haque. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.